Oh hey YouTube, my name is Vivid and this is going to be my attempt at beating a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon LeafGreen using only normal types. As a quick aside before we get into this, yes, I know I haven't uploaded in a hot minute and this picture is related. She's the reason I've been MIA. I had been working on getting a couple videos ready, including the hardest Pokemon challenge I've done yet, and I planned on having them uploaded on the weekend my daughter was scheduled to be born, but she came a week early, so we've been sleepless and spending every minute we can with her since August 8th. Welcome future Pokemon Master Olivia Claire into this world. Okay, so personal life out of the way, let's discuss this challenge. Normal types are kind of plain. I'm sure that's why they're called normal types. Offensively, they're super effective against nothing, but only resisted by rock and steel, and they can't touch ghost types at all. Defensively, only fighting types are super effective against them, and ghost types, again, cannot touch them back. I guess it's just for symmetry. To me, they come off as the Denny's of Pokemon types. When you go to Denny's, it's never a stellar experience, but it's also never really bad either. Everything at Denny's is just okay. The service, just okay. The food, just okay. Your experience being in Denny's, just okay. That seems like the motto of the normal type Pokemon. We are just okay. In future generations, they started playing around with more interesting type combinations for normal types like Girafarig or Drampa, but in the Kanto games, we've got mono normal types and normal type birds to work with, and that's it. These are all the possible encounters I have in this run, and honestly, despite no type diversity, this is a pretty dope selection of Pokemon. Even the early game Pokemon like Raticate and Fearow are really good throughout most of this game, and there are some Pokemon I can get later in the game that are insanely good. So since I have so many strong encounters, I'm gonna make this run a bit harder on myself and just outright ban Snorlax. It's such a solid Pokemon, and it is essentially guaranteed. If you whiff on the first Snorlax encounter, you have a second chance to get it, and Snorlax is just too good and can probably solo the entire Elite Four by itself, so it's banned. But that aside, this is a pretty sick cast of Pokemon. I'm honestly excited to see just what these normal types can do and what kind of strategies I can pull off with them. As for the rules of this challenge, I'll go over them here really briefly, but a more complete list of the rules will be in the description down below. I can only catch the first normal type Pokemon on a route. If a Pokemon faints, it is a goner and has to be permaboxed. All battles must be played on the set mode. No items other than held items are allowed inside battle. And finally, I cannot level up past the next gym leader or Elite Four member's highest level Pokemon. Now before we jump in, if you enjoy these challenges, please help me feed the algorithm by leaving a like on this video and also consider subscribing for more Pokemon content if you're new here. If you're looking for more content like this, I'll have a playlist for Hardcore Nuzlockes linked down below. I've done a few interesting challenges in this format so far, including a Hardcore Nuzlocke without attacking at all, and one using only F-tier Pokemon, and I think both of those are super interesting runs. Also, let me know your favorite normal type Pokemon in the comments down below. Mine is Porygon, and while it's not the easiest Pokemon to obtain, it is obtainable in this game, so maybe, just maybe, we'll grab one. Alright, let's do this. Starting off, I name myself Vivid and my rival Not a Sub. The meaning behind this is if you don't subscribe to me, we're fighting, I guess. Moving on, there are obviously no normal type starter options, and since normal has no weaknesses outside of fighting and none of these starters resist normal type attacks, there was really no one starter option that would make rival fights harder or easier throughout the run, except maybe if my rival ended up with Bulbasaur because of all the flying types I'll get, so I picked randomly and I ended up with Bulbasaur myself. I named him Boxy since the box was his ultimate destiny, and after taking care of all the intro nonsense, I get my real starter on Route 1, a Pidgey. I name her Katniss, and once again, I'm not going to openly share my nickname theme here. It's probably pretty obvious. Let me know if you know the series I'm referencing in the comments section down below, and if you don't, you have some last minute summer reading you need to get done. I make my way to Viridian City, box Boxy, and then this part is super important if you also want to attempt this challenge. I go north to Route 2 for my next encounter. You can technically take the exit to the west to Route 22, but there are Rattata on both Route 2 to the north and Route 22, but you can only find Spearow this early in the game on Route 22, so you would likely be down a potential encounter for the first gym if you decided to go to the west first, since Rattata is so much more common than Spearow, and the first gym is already going to be a nightmare, so I need all the Pokemon I can get. On Route 2, I find a Rattata, catch him, and name him Pita. Rattata might seem like just an annoying early game rodent, but it's actually a pretty solid Pokemon, learning Hyper Fang, an 80 base power stab move really early on. And on top of that, my Rattata has Guts, which is an ability you can absolutely abuse to do a ton of damage. Also, something I've been meaning to ask is when I get a new encounter, would you prefer me to always go over its nature and ability? Maybe only mention it if it's really good or bad? Please let me know. After healing up, I then go west to Route 22 and encounter and catch the much better early bird Pokemon Spearow. I name him Gale, and these are the only 3 Pokemon I can can get before the first gym, which is all rock types. This means that not only will Brock's Pokemon resist all my attacks, but he'll also be super effective against 2 of my Pokemon. After looking for routes to train on for a while, Route 22 is actually perfect to train for PETA and Gale, since you can only get attack and speed EVs here. So I grind them up to the level cap, and then I have Katniss massacre some Caterpie Metapods in Kakuna and Viridian Forest for HP and defense EVs. I've decided I really want to focus on properly EV training my Pokemon as much as possible for this run, since it's normally just an afterthought of mine. With all of my Pokemon at the level cap and the best possible strategy I can come up with, I challenge Brock. I lead off with Gale into Geodude and start by using Leers and Growls to lower its defense and attack stats. I get it to the yellow after alternating the stat dropping moves and Fury attacks, but Gale drops to 5 HP, so I switch into Katniss and 3 quick attacks take the Geodude out from here. Katniss and Gale both level up to 15, but then Brock sends out his ace, Onix, and this Pokemon is an absolute nightmare for me right now. Not only does it resist my moves like Geodude did, but it has a much higher defense stat to play with, and it actually has a rock type move, so it can crush both of my birds. I start spamming Sand Attack because right now trying to abuse Rock Tomb's imperfect accuracy seems like my best bet. Its first Rock Tomb misses, but the second one connects, doing well over half of Katniss's HP and dropping my speed. I switch into PETA knowing Katniss will go down otherwise, and take a Rock Tomb for about a quarter of my health. On the next turn, Onix just goes for Tackle, dropping me to right above half health, and I Hyper Fang it for something like 15% damage. This does not look good. I Tail Whip twice to lower the Rock Snake's defense, and thankfully, it goes on a spree of just missing attacks. My next Hyper Fang hits for about 30% damage, and now we're actually getting somewhere. I switch into Katniss thinking it could be valuable to sack her off to reset PETA's speed, but Onix misses another attack and I get in for free. I use one more Sand Attack and then switch back into PETA, but on the switch, Onix lands another Rock Tomb, meaning I effectively keep the same lower speed, but got in one more Sand Attack? Not sure it's a valuable trade-off. PETA drops to 6 HP and I just have to send it. I click Hyper Fang and the Onix misses a Rock Tomb, but I also miss my attack. On the next turn, he misses another Rock Tomb, but my Hyper Fang connects, dropping him to about a quarter health. I lock in Hyper Fang again and the Onix misses another Rock Tomb, and my rat bites the pile of rocks one last time, taking it out. Wow, talk about an incredibly lucky first gym. I was so sure I would wipe or at least lose multiple team members here, but we made it out unscathed, and this is absolutely the best I could have hoped for. Good job, normies. With Badge 1 down, we move on and unlock what I think are 2 of the most important encounters. On Route 3, we catch a Jigglypuff and name her Primrose, and in Mount Moon, I catch a Clefairy who evolves into one of my absolute favorite normal types, and I name her Effie. I also find 2 Moonstones in Mount Moon, so I can evolve both of these puffs whenever I want. They might seem like pretty meh Pokemon right now, but Clefable manages to be good in almost every single generation because of its stacked move pool, and Wigglytuff is going to give me an interesting way to quite literally counter specific threats later in the game. I'll keep both of them small for now so that they can learn other moves, but if they stick around until I feel comfortable evolving them, I expect them both to be insanely good. Mount Moon is really tame with some kind of meh Team Rocket encounters, but Katniss does manage to evolve in here. I'm kind of using her as a dumping ground for random EVs and making sure that the rest of my Pokemon only get trained up with EVs that I want them to have, so she just gets more experience than everyone else at this point. On the other side of Moon Mountain, I find these 2 Goobers, and they teach me some pretty strong but inaccurate stab moves. I have Primrose learn Mega Kick, and I let Effie learn Mega Punch. Without these moves, these 2 Pokemon would essentially be useless for a long time and not have any real damage output. Shortly after, PETA evolves into Raticate, and then it's time for the Cerulean City rival fight. PETA absolutely thrashes Not a Subs team though, so there isn't really much to see here. Like I said, Raticate is a really solid Pokemon for the majority of the game, and especially in the early game. I crush Nugget Bridge and grind up my team, during which Gale evolves into Fearow, and honestly, my team is looking pretty stacked right now. Fearow is super solid, very burb, much wow. Now I could have pushed the evolution back so Spearow would learn Aerial Ace, but I think I just needed the extra bulk and hitting power for Misty because while she only has 2 Pokemon, Misty Starmie is a massive threat. It has better stats than most of my team, it can use Recover to heal off chip damage, and its Water Pulse hits like a truck. Knowing all of these fun facts and with my team at the level cap, I go in and challenge her. I have a really odd strategy here, so I lead Prim into her Staryu, and on turn 1, I set up a Defense Curl as the Staryu hardens, and then I'm going to click Rollout. If you're unfamiliar, Rollout is a rock type move that doubles in damage each turn for 5 turns as long as it keeps hitting, and it starts at 30 base power unless you use Defense Curl. Then it starts at 60 base power. My very first rollout crits, hitting through the 3 hardens that the Staryu is set up, but still leaves the Staryu alive in the red. Misty wastes her Super Potion on the next turn, and a second rollout drops the Staryu to a little little above half, and the next one just takes it out. She has only clicked Harden so far, and now Prim is locked and loaded with the next rollout coming in at a whopping 480 base power. Just to kind of put into perspective how insane that number is, that's over 100 points stronger than a stab explosion. The Starmie goes for Water Pulse and actually does a good chunk of damage, but I avoid confusion and my little Puffball absolutely body bags this star. Was this the safest strategy for this gym? No, but was it definitely the most fun? Yes, good job, Prim. With Misty out of the way, we go save Bill, who is a little too into cosplaying, defeat this random rocket goon who gives me the Dig TM, which is super clutch for the next gym, and we grab our next team member on Route 5 in a Meowth. I catch him and name him Hey Mitch. Meowth and Persian are again some of my favorite normal types. I just have fond memories of abusing Meowth in Little Cup, and Persian in Gen 1 where its slash was almost guaranteed to crit. In this generation, Hey Mitch isn't actually a very strong Pokemon, but I have a plan to abuse his strengths, which are mostly just his insanely good speed stat. You'll see later. With a full team for the first time, I make my way to Vermilion City, and I have a few things to do before I go murk Lieutenant Surge. On the SSN, I steal a bunch of items from rooms, and then Not a Sub shows up, once again thinking that he's about to do something, but Gale and Peta stomp most of his team, and Effie, who I taught Water Pulse to, even pitches in to write an obituary for his Charmeleon. If Not a Sub was subbed, he wouldn't be getting so embarrassingly beaten down. Don't be like him. We go rub the captain of the boat's back, which if I'm being super real with you, I've always thought was a little strange. Like, why are you the captain of a boat, but you're getting seasick? You picked a career that actively just makes you sick? Why am I rubbing your back? I'm a 10-year-old child in this game. I've just always had a lot of questions about this entire interaction, but hey, at least he gives me the cut TM. Weirdo. I can't use Haymitch or Katniss in this gym fight because they both hit level 25 and the cap for this gym is 24, but I'm not super concerned. Before heading into Surge, I teach Pete to dig, and then I just charge up this grown-ass man who apparently used his electric type Pokemon to paralyze his enemies in the war? I'm not sure, but that sounds like a war crime. Is Lieutenant Surge a war criminal? Why have I never realized how insane the Kanto games actually are? Okay, so I guess let's fight a veteran who might also be a war criminal? I lead off with Effie into Surge's Voltorb. We both miss our turn 1 attacks, but on turn 2, Effie takes a soft shockwave and drops Voltorb to below half with a Mega Punch. Next turn, we take another soft hit and then drop the ball with another punch. Surge goes out into Pikachu, and I switch into Peta as it sets up a double team. I click Quick Attack and once again prove how solid Raticate is in the early game as we just murk this Pikachu in one shot. Surge's ace, Raichu, comes out, and I use Dig in preparation of leaving this Sparky Mouse 6 feet under, but on the next turn, it lives with a sliver of health and paralyzes me. On the next turn, Surge heals with a super potion and I get fully parried, and then I get fully paralyzed again on the next turn. I then get paralyzed for the 3rd turn in a row as Raichu starts setting up double teams, and what looked like an easy fight is starting to slip away from me fast. I finally break through on the next turn, but I miss my quick attack. Raichu seems content to just keep using double team, so I decide to roll the dice and go for another dig. I break through the paralysis and go underground to once again create a nice little grave for this Raichu, and on the next turn, despite being at like plus 47 evasion and paralyzed, I beat the odds and land my dig. This is the 3rd badge down, and Peta is still proving to be a massive asset. Good job, Rat Boy. Moving on, I blindly make my way through the dark cave and as quickly as possible make my way to Celadon City. It's always great when you make it to the big city of a region because it unlocks so many resources. The department store sells a variety of TMs, there's a free Eevee somewhere in this town, and the game corner here is a massive supply of insane TMs and the only way I can unlock Porygon. So naturally, I get to work figuring out how to legitimately play these slots so that I can afford everything I need. No more than 10 seconds later, I say f that and immediately start abusing save states and the fact that I can slow down my game to a crawl to cheese wins. Listen, I could do this the insanely time-consuming way by battling the same trainer over and over again with the Versus Seeker to grind out money to buy coins, or I could use normal saves to make sure that I always made a profit with my money, but instead, I decided to save myself hours and hours and do this in a way that I don't think will make me go crazy. I really don't think this should matter because at the end of the day, the game corner is mostly luck-based and time-consuming, but let me know how you feel about this. So anyway, I legitimately win enough coins to buy hella TMs, and I can even come back later and maybe pick up a Porygon if I need. But for right now, as much as I love Porygon, it doesn't really have a solid slot on the team. These TMs are all part of a bigger plan I have for a couple of my team members, but we'll get to them later. I head west of Celadon to Route 22 and get one of the stronger encounters I can in this run, a Doduo. Dodrio is an absolute monster. It learns Tri-Attack by level up, giving it a solid normal type stab move with a good secondary effect, and it learns Drill Peck by level up, which is the best flying type attack I will have access to in this run. It also has great attack and speed stats. It's just a really solid encounter. I catch him and name him Senna. He has the runaway ability, which is unbelievably mediocre, but still, it's just so solid of a Pokemon that I don't even mind. I decide to retire Katniss to the PC now. She's just the weakest of my possible burbs and doesn't really offer much to the team anymore. Thanks for the early game sand attacks, Katniss. I then go pick up the Eevee, but I don't even bother nicknaming it because unless I get really desperate, there will be no point in using it. Off to the box you go. Heading to the next gym, I don't even stress about having all of my Pokemon hit the level cap for Erika because she only has grass types and I have 2 really solid flying types on my team. I'm already pretty close to the level cap with most of my team, so I just challenge her. I lead Senna while Erika leads Victory Bell. A peck takes the Veggie to just above half and it misses a Stun Spore. Next turn I use Tri-Attack to gauge the damage difference between the 2 moves, dropping the Victory Bell to the red, and then it lands its second Stun Spore. Erika fully heals her Salad and another peck once again drops it to just below half. On the next turn I take way more than expected from an Acid, so after dropping it to the red again, I switch into Peta. He comes in, takes a soft hit from Acid, and then finishes his Veggies with a quick attack. Erika sends out her veggie noodles and I switch into Gale. I'm gonna cut the suspense here. Gale turns out to be a vegan and absolutely devours his next 2 side salads. Vileplume manages to live a hit and paralyze me, but it doesn't even matter. This is why I wasn't super concerned about the level cap. Burbs are good here. With the 4th badge out of the way, I realize that Effie's entire final moveset is going to be move tutor moves and TMs, so I give her a Moonstone and she evolves into Clefable. I absolutely adore Clefable, and she'll be abusing one of my favorite strategies soon enough. For now, I just teach her Thunderbolt and Ice Team from the TMs I got from the game corner, but if you think you know what the rest of her future moveset will be, please feel free to leave your guesses. I also realize the level cap jumps high enough for me to get Primrose to the level I wanted before evolving her, so I let her learn Counter through the Celadon department store move tutor, and then I give her a Moonstone as well. Finally, both of my pink puffs have reached their final forms. Wigglytuff has an insane HP stat, and my strategy is for her to use Counter to take full advantage of her fat and redirect the hits that are coming in at her. Now I have a few story things to take care of. First, I infiltrate Team Rocket's base in the game corner, and the only real hard fight in here is Giovanni, but Effie drowns his rock ground types with Water Pulse, and Prim gets to show off just how thick she is by countering his Kangaskhan's Mega Punch for a one-shot. These puffs are not here to play. I get some random goggles and I go to Lavender Town. Not a sub shows up asking if any of my Pokemon have died, and I'm just like, no? But it's a rude question, so I just mow through him. His team is better than the last time we fought, but Effie has super effective moves against most of his team, which is kind of the beauty of the Thunderbolt and Ice Beam combination. Back in the day, we referred to this as Bolt Beam, and in this generation, it's pretty much an unresisted combination of moves. I make it to the top of the tower, save this random dude who repays me with a flute, and now it is progress time. Before moving on, I do some final grinding on Route 22 because it's the perfect place to get just attack and speed IVs, and I push back Senna's evolution until he learns Drill Peck, but then, as soon as he learns it, I let him evolve into the absolutely destructive Dodrio. After that, I grind up Haymitch a bit and have him evolve into Persian. Then I use the flute to wake up what would undoubtedly be my strongest Pokemon of this run, and I just knock it out. I try searching the ground after KOing it for the leftovers that it drops here, but it turns out, for some ridiculous reason, you actually have to have the item finder in this game to find hidden items. That's dumb. So I very legitimately register enough Pokemon in my Pokedex to obtain the item finder, grab the first leftovers with it, and then go knock out the second Snorlax and grab the second leftovers. I could 100% do this run without lefties, but I have much more fun in runs where I'm able to use held items, and there are so few scattered throughout Fire Red and Leaf Green that I decided to bend the rules just a little bit here to grab these. Hope you're okay with it. If not, yell at me in the comment section because that's still a comment. Also, I'm just now realizing that I put a smiley face emoji in my script after that last sentence, but there is absolutely no way you could see that, and there's really no way to convey that outside of me just telling you I put it there, but anyway, that's the energy that sentence had. Now that both paths are unlocked, I have access to the Safari Zone in Fuchsia City, and with it come my 3 strongest potential encounters for this run since I banned Snorlax, but I'll only be able to catch one of them, and only maybe. Catching things in the Safari Zone is a nightmare sometimes. The unique normal types in the Safari Zone are Chansey, Kangaskhan, and Tauros. I'm gonna be 100% honest here, I do not want Chansey at all. It's a great Pokemon, but it's not going to offer me much that Clefable isn't already giving me. I really want Tauros because it has Intimidate and it's just an incredibly strong Pokemon, but I wouldn't be upset with Kangaskhan. The Kanto Safari Zone is broken up into 4 zones, so I head to the 4th zone dodging grass as often as I can, and in Zone 4, Tauros have a 4% chance to be encountered and Kangaskhan have a 1% chance. So I spin around in circles for something like 47 minutes and then finally, I encounter a Kangaskhan. I was 4 times more likely to get a Tauros here, but Kang is a pretty neat Pokemon and I never get to use one, so I'm still stoked about it. I throw my first ball and it breaks free, but luckily it doesn't flee. I throw my second ball and I get incredibly lucky here and we capture her. I name her Mags and she'll replace Gale on my team since Fearo's pretty much just a Worsto Drio. Until further notice, this will be my final team. Now with the level cap being as high as it is, I decided it's a pretty solid time to try and hammer out some of my EV spreads as much as possible. I haven't brought this up until now, but I've been EV training as I go with the Versus Seeker, which in this game lets you run around and then battle trainers that you've already beaten again. So I grind Mags up on this trainer right outside Lavender Town who has 2 Clefairy, which give 2 hit point EVs each, and this trainer all the way back on Route 11 who has a Nidoran and a Nidorino for a total of 3 attack EVs. This is a great way to get a decent amount of XP and EVs at the same time, but for times when I need to stay under a level cap, I just fight wild Pokemon. Shout out to this guide I found on Maryland.com breaking down the best EV training spots for Fire Red and Leaf Green because honestly, I had no clue, and this was a valuable resource. With Mags now bulked out, I head to Saffron City and run through Sylph headquarters. I have to fight Not a Sub once again, and this is normally the rival fight that most people consider actually difficult, but my team is firing on all cylinders at this point. Prim drops his Pidgeotto with a body slam, Effie absolutely decimates the Gyarados and Charizard with Thunderbolts, then she manages to claim another soul by freezing his Execute, Senna comes in on Alakazam as it goes for a Calm Mind, and then bends both of his spoons with some aggressive pecking, and this was not hard, my normal types are kinda fuego. After that, we have to fight Giovanni again, but Prim makes quick work of most of his team, and Mags, who can for some reason learn Surf, takes out his Rhyhorn. For a Crime Lord, you're really not doing too hot, Bubba. Anyways, I'll see you soon. With the final story elements out of the way, it's all gyms in the Elite Four from here on out. Now the next 2 gyms have the same level cap of 43, but I have different strategies for each gym leader, so I should be safe here. I start with Sabrina, where it's finally time to show what I have been training Haymitch for. I lead into Sabrina's Kadabra and take it out with a singular Shadow Ball. This is another TM I picked up from the Game Corner, and in this generation, it's a physical move, which is a winning combination when you pair it with Persian's speed. I take out her Mr. Mime in a single hit, I drop her Venomoth with 2 cuts as it misses a Supersonic, and then her ace Alakazam comes out. One of the strongest gym Pokemon you face in this game is outsped and murked by my kitty. I've been training Haymitch on exclusively Pokemon that will give him attack and speed IVs for this very moment, and it has definitely paid off. That Alakazam can be a nightmare to beat if you're not prepared, but Haymitch handled it with ease. Sabrina also gives me the TM for Calm Mind, which is another one of Effie's final moves, so I replace Water Pulse for Calm Mind, and now she is 1 move tutor away from having her complete moveset. Next on the docket is Koga, and the strategy for him is pretty simple. I lead with Prim, who I've taught Safeguard, just in case I feel like I need to be immune to Toxic, and I body slam Koga's lead Coughing as it drops below half health and then gets paralyzed. I take it out on the next turn with another body slam. Then Koga's Muck comes in, and it starts talking all kinds of bullshit. I get a para with a body slam, but eventually he just starts using Minimize and Acid Armor 1,000,000 times each, upping its evasion and defense. Then it gets a Sludge Poison on Prim, putting me on a clock. I decide to set up a Safeguard and switch into Effie, where I'm able to Calm Mind and trap the Muck into Minimize with Encore, and I just spam Calm Minds until the Encore ends, and then I go for a Thunderbolt. Even though I'm sure this goo is at +6 evasion, I managed to connect and it goes down in 1 shot. So Muck, you tried your best, but it did not work out. After this, the rest of Koga's team are easy 1-shots with Effie, and we secure the 6 badge and the Toxic TM, which could be wildly helpful later. I'm now realizing that this could very well be my first Deathless run, and honestly, that has me super stoked. I love my entire team, and each Pokemon currently here, except for Mags, has really been able to kind of show off at some point. I'm also sure her time will come. Kang is just too solid of a Pokemon for it not to. Before I take on Blaine, I go run around and grab some of the TMs I've missed and use some of the move tutors to teach Rock Slide to Mags and Soft Boiled to Effie, replacing Encore and making her moveset complete. She is now an insanely good setup sweeper, and even though Encore will sometimes allow you to also set up, I really don't think the importance of healing moves in a Hardcore Nuzlocke can be understated. And with that, it's Blaine time. I lead Mags in this fight into his Growlithe, who intimidates me, but Mag pretty quickly gets to demonstrate just how hard she hits by dropping the Fire Pupper to about half health with a Fake Out after an Intimidate drop. That's wild. I go for Rock Slide on the next turn, but I miss, and then I take a Fire Blast in response that does about 20% damage. My next Rock Slide connects, and the pupper goes down. Blaine sends out his Fire Pony, and another Rock Slide just takes it out in one shot, making it a solid start to this battle. The bigger Fire Pony, I guess the Fire Horse, comes out next, and another Rock Slide drops it to about 1/4 of its health, but we get a flinch, so a Surf on the next turn is able to secure the KO. Down to just his ace, Blaine sends out the big Fire Doggo and gets another Intimidate drop, and I know now that I will most likely have to switch out, because even though I was able to power through one Intimidate drop, muscling through two doesn't seem likely. So I switch into Effie and skillfully dodge a Fire Blast on the way in, and I go for Calm Mind, but Arcanine's Fire Blast hits me hard to just above half and then burns me. Not wanting to risk a crit on the Pokemon I have invested the most into, I switch back into Mags, and another Fire Blast leaves me with a little bit above 1/4 of my health. I go for Fake Out, which does about 1/4 of the Doggo's HP, but I'm not even sure if I will outspeed it because of what kind of EV training I've been doing. So I decide to switch into Peta. He's probably the most expendable member on my team, but he also has Dig, which looks like it should KO from the calcs I'm looking at. He comes out, takes an absolutely massive Fire Blast, dropping him to just 14 HP, and then I go for Dig, hoping it will KO, but the Arcanine just barely survives, meaning we either got a low roll, or this Arcanine could potentially have a plus defense nature or really solid defense IVs. Either way, it's super unfortunate for us, and Peta goes down to another Fire Blast. Rest in peace, bud. You were definitely an early game carry, and you could have been a solid asset in the Elite Four had we been able to get you burned at some point. With a heavy heart, I send back out Mags thinking a Fake Out will seal the battle for us, but I completely blanked on Blaine still having healing items to use, so he uses a Hyper Potion, taking his Fire Doggo all the way to full, and this time, I just risk the outspeed, stay in, and click Rock Slide. We managed to move first, and we managed to connect, and the Arcanine goes down. Had I just done this in the first place, we probably wouldn't have lost Peta, but it was hard to know if I would outspeed since I barely have any speed EVs into my Kangaskhan. I've been training her almost exclusively in HP and attack. Losses aside, we still win our 7th badge, and I just have one more to go until we take on the Elite Four. Needing to replace Peta, I have a few options in the box, and there are still a few encounters I can get in this game. There's an in-game trade for Lickitung, a route with Ditto that I haven't got yet, and in the game corner, I can still grab a Porygon that I can use. To me, Ditto is worthless without its hidden ability, and Lickitung is an interesting Pokemon, but come on. If you thought I wasn't just going to take this chance to use my favorite Pokemon of all time, I'm not sure you understand just how much I love Porygon. Welcome to the team, BD. I grind BD up to catch them up in levels, training them mostly in HP and special defense, teach them the TM for Toxic since in combination with Recover they could potentially stall out weaker Pokemon, and the plan is to also teach them Thunderbolt and Psychic before the Elite Four, but with our new complete team, it's time to go grab that 8th gym badge. With my team at the level cap and pretty much my entire team fully EV trained at this point, I challenged Giovanni. His team is super soft to water and ice types, and after looking at the last 2 fights we've had with him, I'm not sure why they didn't just leave a Kangaskhan on his team to give him something at least neutral to those types. Anyway, I lead Mags into his lower level Rhyhorn, and a single Surf takes it out. He brings in Nidoqueen, so I switch into Senna on a predicted Earthquake to dodge it, and I call it right and get in for free. On the next turn, I Drill Peck for most of the Queen's health, but Poison Point gets triggered, poisoning Senna. Still, I take out the Queen on the next turn, and Geo sends out his ace, a Rhyhorn? This thing evolves to Rhydon at level 42. Why do you have 2 Rhyhorns on your team, actually? I'm just now realizing this. Whatever. I switch out into Prim and click Counter until it finally hits me with an Earthquake, and the counter drops its health to just a sliver. I click Body Slam as Geo fully heals his endangered species, and then the next counter takes it out. Nidoking comes out, and the combination of Fake Out and Return from Mags deal with it handily. His last Pokemon is a Dugtrio that Mags manages to take out with a single return. That's every gym beaten using only normal types. And bonus Jonas, we get the TM for Earthquake, which is a pretty solid coverage pickup from Mags. We're on the final act of this run, and only the Elite Four and the Champion Battle stand in our way of beating the entire Indigo Pokemon League with only normal types. So, we make our way to Victory Road. And on the way there, Not a Sub ambushes us. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that this fight happened here, and his team is actually pretty solid at this point, but we muscle through it regardless. Mags downs his Pidgeot and Rhyhorn, Hey Mitch takes care of the Execute and Alakazam, and then finally Effie deals with Gyarados and Charizard. Why do you still have a Rhyhorn, and why have you not bought a Leaf Stone to evolve this Execute? Scrub. Okay, so now, with that out of the way, I make my way through Victory Road to unlock the ability to fly back to the Pokemon League, then I head back to Fuchsia to use the Move Deleter to clean up some HMs, I settle on final movesets for my team, and then I grind to the level cap of 60, the level of Lance's strongest Pokemon. Then, I head through the doors into the Elite Four. First up is Lorelei, who specializes in ice types. Her lead Pokemon is a Dugong, who honestly cannot do much. I see this as an opportunity to set up with Effie, and that's what I do. I stack a ton of Calm Mind boosts, staying healthy with Soft Boiled, and then I proceed to absolutely shatter her team ice type by ice type. Her Lapras and Jinx both outspeed me and try to halt my sweep with status moves, but they're ultimately unsuccessful, and every single one of her Pokemon goes down in one hit. That is the soul-crushing power of Calm Mind, and honestly, I love it. Solid work, Effie. Bruno is up next, and he normally is not scary at all, but his fighting types actually hit most of my team for super effective damage, so I have to play this one a little more carefully. I lead off with Prim, and 2 countered Earthquakes drop Bruno's lead Onix. He brings out Hitmonchan, so knowing I will always live one attack, I click counter. But he also clicks counter, and we both just keep countering back and forth, so finally, I switch into Senna, but conveniently on the turn I switch, he goes for Sky Uppercut instead of counter, which is highly suspicious. Drillpeck is still a clean one-hit KO though, and then instead of doing the reasonable thing, he switches in both Machamp and Hitmonlee before his final Onix, and Cinna takes both of them out cleanly as well. Drillpeck is just such a good attack. Down to his last Onix, I switch into Effie, and the Onix becomes infatuated from cute charm proccing, so now I'm just extra protected. I click Ice Beam, and the Onix just crumbles to its lackluster special defense stat. Another easy dub for the normies. Agatha and her ghosts are up next, and the plan is to use Haymitch as my secret weapon once again, but on the first turn, her weaker Gengar actually lives a Shadow Ball in the red, which I guess just means this Pokemon is slightly more physically bulky than I had planned for. The Gengar sets up a double team, and on the next turn is healed fully, but I managed to connect 2 more Shadow Balls and it drops. Agatha sends out her Golbat, so I switch into Beatty, getting poisoned by a Poison Fang, and then confused by a Confusory before ever getting a Psychic off. On the next turn, I hit myself in Confusion, take another Poison Fang, and poison damage, dropping me incredibly low, and I'm forced to switch into Mags so Beatty doesn't get KO'd. Mags cleans up the KO, and then Arbok comes out and gets off an Intimidate. I double switch out and back into Mags to shrug off the attack drop from Intimidate, and then Fake Out plus Earthquake drop the Sneck. Agatha goes into her stronger Gengar, so I make a really dumb play by going into Primrose to counter its Sludge Bomb, but surprise, Gengar is a ghost and counter is a fighting type move. Little bit of a miscalculation on my part, I guess. After that embarrassing oopsie, I bring in Senna, who brings the Gengar low with the Drill Peck, but gets put to sleep and then nightmared. Not wanting to let the damage rack up, I switch back out into Haymitch, and I'm finally able to pick off her weakened Gengar, and then I deaded her last already dead ghost with a final Shadow Ball. I really didn't expect her Gengars to actually be able to survive Haymitch's Shadow Balls, but we still made it through unscathed. The last Elite Four member is Lance, and he is 100% the hardest trainer we have battled in this run so far, just because all of his dragon types are insane. And oh, never mind. Effie just set up a couple Calm Minds and then wrote his entire team a really sad obituary. Not sad like, oh, it's sad I murdered your entire team sad, more like, these Pokemon didn't put up a fight and you probably should have tried harder in life sad. Just disrespectful. Okay, sorry bud. To be fair, at least you're a little bit harder of a fight in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Kind of. With that small speed bump out of the way, we make our way to the champion room, and once again, we have to fight not a sub. He's been a bit of a pushover the last few times we fought, but maybe this time with a finally fully evolved team, he'll stand somewhat of a chance, or at least put up a fight. Let's just see. I lead off with Mags into his Pidgeot, and I've gotten rid of Fake Out in favor of Rest for this fight, in case it goes long so I can keep Mags healthy, and it also happens to pair pretty well with her ability Early Bird. So in turn 1, I go for a Rock Slide, dropping the bird into the yellow, and then I take a pretty light Aerial Ace. I then Scuff on the next turn and misclick Rock Slide instead of Return, which of course misses, letting the bird harshly lower my attack with a Feather Dance. On the next turn, I misclick again into Earthquake, which the bird is just immune to, instead of clicking Return. I don't know why I missed both of these attacks. Like, I've misclicked twice and this never happens to me. So the Earthquake obviously misses, and this lets the bird get another Feather Dance off on me. Why am I playing so bad? I finally click correctly and select Return, but my attack is at -4 and so low that the bird lives in the red, and on the next turn it gets fully healed. I know I have to switch now, so I go into Beatty, and a Thunderbolt drops the Pidgeot into the red and paralyzes it. I recover to stay healthy and then bolt it again for the KO. Alakazam comes out, so I switch into Haymitch, and the Zam sets up a Reflect, which is not super ideal for me here. I decide to Screech to lower the Alakazam's defense in case I need to KO it with a different Pokemon, and take a pretty big Psychic in return, dropping me to under half. Shadow Ball is thankfully able to pick up the KO on the next turn, and Nodasub brings out his finally evolved Executor. I switch into Senna, dodging a Sleep Powder, and on the next turn, Drill Peck does less than 50% thanks to the Reflect, and I take a critical hit Egg Bomb to 22 HP? What the hell? Is this the real life? I mean, Eggy's attack stat isn't bad, but geez, that was close and not expected at all. Thankfully though, the reflect wears off, so I'm able to safely take out the coconuts on the next turn, prompting Not-a-Sub to bring out his Rhydon. Since I have erased Surf from Mags, my response to this is pretty easily Prim, so I switch out into her as the Rhino misses a Rock Tomb. I counter as the Rhydon uses an Earthquake and it just drops. Gyarados comes out next, so I stay in, taking a Hydro Pump to low yellow and get off a Thunder Wave. I then go for a rest to heal back up to full and wake up on the first turn thanks to my Chesto Berry. The Gyarados locks into Thrash, letting me go for counter, and it even gets infatuated by Cute Charm. The counter does about 3/4 of its health, so on the next turn I click Body Slam expecting this to take it out, but it does not. The Gyarados lives and then breaks through Paralysis and Infatuation to hit me down into the red, but its Thrash ends and it's confused. I go for Body Slam, but a full restore completely heals the Gyarados, but still, I manage to get incredibly lucky and the Gyarados ends up fully paralyzed from the Body Slam again. So on the next turn, I just click Rest again to go back up to full HP as the Gyarados gets immobilized by Love. I finally decide to switch into BD to trace the Intimidate and just take the Gyarados out with a Thunderbolt. I probably should have made that play a while back, but at least Prim got to switch out at close to full health, so it seems okay. Charizard comes out next and I feel like it's Mag's time to seal the deal, but she switches in on a super strong Fire Blast and gets burned. So unsure if Rock Slide will still be a one-hit KO, I switch into Effie. Fire Blast takes me to just above half, and Leftovers gives me a little bit more recovery, meaning only a crit should take me out from here. On the next turn, Charizard is very kind and misses his Fire Blast, and Soft Boiled takes me all the way back up to full. I then alternate between Calm Mind and Soft Boiled until I'm at +2 special attack, and then click Thunderbolt for the one-shot. Effie scores the final KO, and we become the league champion, winning the run. Good job, normies. We did it. So normal types are by no means my favorite, but there are a lot of normal types that I really love, and I got to use quite a few of them in this run. I even got to use a Porygon, and it picked up like 2 KOs or something. That's the definition of fun for me. This run may have not been the most challenging, but it was a ton of fun. And I would be curious to know which Pokemon of mine you would consider the MVP. Obviously, Effie super overperformed in the late game, but Pito was so crucial early, and the rest of my team pulled a ton of weight throughout the game as well. I was also honestly super impressed with how effective using Prim's naturally high HP stat with counter was in a run like this. I don't know the exact number of threats she took down with counter, but it feels like it was a lot more than I thought it would be. Just let me know who you think earned the MVP title in the comments down below. Before I leave here, I just want to say thank you so much for the massive amount of support you've all been giving me on these videos. They're a ton of fun to make, and I have some unique ideas for how to sort of elevate this format moving forward. If you enjoy videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and also maybe ring that notification bell. I don't think I've ever asked for that ever, but there's gotta be a first time for everything. Also ×2, following me on Twitter and joining my Discord are both great ways to keep up with new releases and places to interact with me. Both will be linked in the description down below. My next challenge should be coming soon, and it is a doozy of a run, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Vivid, and I'm kind of done here, so I have to leave. Bye.